Welcome to the Magic of Positive Thinking, a podcast hosted by Norb Svanascini, founder of AmericanEagle.com, and content writer Al Edwards. Norb, happy podcast day. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's a beautiful day. And, just to remember the three things we talked about the last show.
Right.
You have to thank God for the day, this present that you get every day.
Right.
And to keep staying positive, pick up that little piece of paper you see on the ground, throw it in the trash. You're going to feel better.
Right.
Keep that optimism going. And then when you see somebody, give them a compliment. You know, find something good about them. They'll be happy, and you'll be happy that you saw something nice. Even under the worst circumstances, there's nice things.
That's right. Absolutely. And friends, if you have not had a chance to listen to our last podcast, Norb is referring to the last one we did, which was entitled How to Be an Optimistic Person in 3 Easy Steps. And those were the 3 steps. But we've gotten so much great feedback on this particular podcast that Norb actually had a couple more to add. So we may have to change the title of our last podcast to 47 ways to...
No, actually, there's only one more.
One more.
And you know what's interesting is that a lot of people, have actually mentioned that was a really good podcast. So I'm very proud of it. So
Absolutely.
is Al. And the other thing is to add humor. Even when things are bad, humor has a way to really kind of make things easy, and not only humor, but just to appreciate things that happen every day. I had a very, very nice encounter with a couple that I know the last weekend. And the lady was actually born in one of the Russian enclaves.
Mm-hmm.
And just a super, super lady. And she was telling me that under the communist regime, they had a really, really rough time. There was no food.
Mm.
So the father made a decision to go out in the countryside and actually buy a little plot of land. And they went into a real tiny home, and they grew vegetables. And she says, it was a terrible time, but I was young, and I remember that with just incredibly happy moments.
Wow.
And, I think one of the problems we have today in the society is that we have it so good that we just don't know what little things can mean.
Right.
So,
right.
I just thought I'd share that.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to The Strangest Secret, the 1956 recording by Earl Nightingale that started this whole show. And he said something in there that I never forgot, and that is familiarity. I still can't say that word. Familiarity breeds contempt. And the more you become accustomed to something, you think that it's just always going to be there, and that is not the case.
Right. And sometimes, crazy as it seems, not having something can still be a happy moment in your life because you've had that experience and you remember it like, gee, it wasn't so bad, because she remembers the family was very, very close at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The father was very worried about what was going to happen. And the family became very close, and they actually grew carrots and potatoes and vegetables to survive. And she remembers that, with kindness and something really nice. So
it's a great example out of making something positive out of a really tough situation.
Exactly.
Well, friends, add that to your notes from the podcast of last time that remember humor. Don't take yourself so darn seriously. Remember to laugh and have fun. And that's another great way to be optimistic. So thank you, Norb, for that addition. So today, friends, our podcast, the title of it is going to be that achievement in life is guaranteed. But the question is, what will you achieve in life? And so many times I've been thinking about this. So many times achievement is always linked to success, or, that you accomplished something you wanted to do. But the funny thing about achievement is that there's a direct cause and effect relationship between what you did and what happened. And we're going to talk about that today. So let's give you some examples. So if I drive my car into a pole, I just achieved a smashed up front end of a car, right?
Absolutely.
Or if I eat too much enough that I'm going to be an overweight person, or if I don't take care of my skin in the sun, I'm going to develop some problems down the line. So really in life, achievement's guaranteed, but what do you want to achieve is the topic of the show today. What do you think about that idea?
No, I like that idea. And it goes back to just whatever you put into your mind, you will get that same amount, whether it's positive or negative. And again, we talk all the time about, what's the alternative? And the alternative is guaranteed because that's what you're going to reap,
Absolutely. So what you're referring to is what we always end the show with now, and that is that, being positive is a choice, but what is the alternative to being positive? Being negative and pessimistic, and you're going to be miserable. That is guaranteed.
Without a doubt.
That's an achievement that you're going to definitely achieve. So did you have a couple things, Norb, you wanted to talk about?
Well, one of the things that, again, with that process of how to stay positive, I just printed something which is kind of interesting. And the title is 5 Things to Quit Doing Right Now.
Wow.
Which really helps everybody. The first one is trying to please everyone. And, we all have a thing in life that we tend to want to please people.
Right.
And you don't really want to offend anybody. And I'm not saying you should offend, but, again, stay away from these negative people. So if you see the point that they're unreasonable because they want to be pleased about something that really makes no sense or you're against, just don't try it. Don't try it anymore. Just leave them alone.
Right.
Go to the next place.
Right.
The other thing that you have to quit fearing change. Change is just part of the earth, the life. We live with change. I mean, it's unless you live in Southern California where the weather's perfect all the time. But
which
they
is
still
not
have
true.
to contend with mudslides and earthquakes and all those things that belong in California.
Other than that, it's great.
Otherwise, it's great. So, just don't fear change. I'm sure that, if we lived in California, especially in the LA area, San Francisco, we would worry about earthquakes. I think everybody that lives there.
Sure.
We live in the Chicago area, and we don't have that many tornadoes, but it's something that, when there's a storm, you have to be aware of it. But don't fear it. It's just part of it, and it's going to happen.
Sure.
The other thing is living in the past. The past is gone. Whether you like it or not, don't live in the past. However, you should learn from the past. And, if you've done something wrong and hopefully you realize that you've done something wrong, correct it. Don't live in the past. Just because you did something, I'm going to keep doing it. One of the things about business is, I've had a few businesses, and one of the most common things that you hear from older employees is, well, we've always done it that way. Well, Henry Ford didn't want to change the Model T Ford.
That's right.
And if it wasn't for his son, I don't know if we'd still be driving Model T Fords, but they wouldn't sell too well.
No, they wouldn't.
So, don't live in the past. I mean, just the past is the past, and you have to learn from it and try to get better. The other thing is don't put yourself down. We all have this this thing about looking and trying to find, oh my God, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, listen, there's nobody perfect. If you ever go to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, there's a section on childbirth, and they actually have a large amount of bottles showing the development of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, these are childs that, were not born, but they were extracted from the mother, and they actually have them in jars.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all these jars filled with the babies from the time of almost conception,
right,
to all the time when they're born. And what's interesting is that we all go through that. Every one of us, everyone in this life has gone through that process before we're born, which is an incredible miracle. When you think about it, 9 months, this whole thing is developed. And, to put yourself down is ridiculous, because you have to say, oh my God, I'm a miracle. I'm unique. There's nobody else like me. DNA today proves it, unless you're an identical twin.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's really an interesting thing. Most people put themselves down. They look and, I don't like the way I am here. I don't like the way I am here. It's really sad. So be happy with what you are, just be happy. And the other one, the last one, which is, I think is pretty good. And this is something that, I know that I do it, is overthinking.
Mm.
And, we also have this thing that we overthink everything, if I do this, what'll happen? What can happen? This. One thing I learned, there's an old book written by Carnegie, Dale Carnegie, that is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. 95% of the stuff you worry about never happens. And if there's one thing you can learn from this show, is that's a fact. So quit overthinking and worrying about stuff. That's basically what I want to say.
I love that. Overthinking. We're the only species that I'm aware of. And by the way, they call overthinking paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah.
You get stuck in a certain way of, you're overthinking things, and it prevents you from taking action. But, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but we're the only species I can think of that does that. Animals always act on instinct versus, their own free will and everything. And I don't think animals get stuck in the paralysis by analysis kind of a mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, I have a friend of mine that he actually believes this, and I can't dispute it. And when I say this, people will probably realize that I am crazy, because I like the things that are provable, and this obviously is not provable. But he thinks that animals are basically robots,
right?
And they've been programmed to do things. They don't know why.
Right.
They're programmed to do this.
That's how they're wired.
So it's kind of interesting. But when you think about it, I mean, a tiger is born and he chases after animals to eat, and nobody teaches him or anything. And the vultures come and pick the bones afterwards, and that's what they do. And they don't have any other choice.
Right.
The only animal that has a choice is the humans.
That's right. Let's talk about what you said with regard to today's topic, with regard to cause and effect and achievement. So many people, including me and many, many others, get hung up that something happened in the past, and it's like they tie themselves to that problem or that inability to do something. They tie themselves to it into the future. And it literally has nothing to do with what you can do in the future. It's like literally yesterday is just as over as the Peloponnesian War. And we have a hard time with that. Why do you think that is, Norb?
Well, the past is part of your life, and obviously, it is important. I think what you have to do with the past is learn from it, not dwell on it.
Right.
Which is, that's the problem. Again, going to the 5 things to quit is the living in the past. I mentioned before I was in Japan and I was in Hiroshima, and when you see the destruction in 1945 of that city, it's just beyond belief. I mean, it's just everything was wiped out. But you know what? It's a beautiful city. It's just a beautiful. They built a museum to remember that.
Right.
But obviously, they didn't build it to remember it as a good thing, but to learn from it. You
Right.
know? And they built a beautiful city afterwards. Everybody from the world that has the pleasure of going there, they learned that a nuclear bomb is not something nice.
Right.
So as bad as it is, and this is, I hate to say that this is a positive side about it because it was a horrible thing, but the good part about it is that it shows how bad it is. So, you learn from the past not to do it again, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I think that once again ties right into kind of what we're talking about, and that is the law of cause and effect. Even Newton's law of physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think not only is that a law of physics, but I think it's a universal law, a spiritual law of life. And let's talk about that for a second, because as Norb just said, we have free will. We can control the way we think, unlike an animal. The universal law of cause and effect states that for every effect, there is a definite cause. Likewise, for every cause, there's a definite effect. Your thoughts, behaviors, and actions create specific effects and manifest and create your life as you know it. If you are not happy with the effects you have created, then you must change the causes that created them in the first place.
That is so simple that it's incredible. There was an old, I don't know if this was, over 2,000 years, Seneca, and he actually said something around 2,000 years ago. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And, this just is the basic thought of everything we talked about. It's you have to think positively, because all the stuff you imagine, 95% of it, will never happen. But if you program yourself to knowing that, well, I'm not going to worry about it because the odds are with me. So,
right.
And if it happens, it happens. We'll survive it. Throughout history, humanity has survived.
So what he's saying there is that we get trapped in our own imagination. We get paralyzed by our fears and things we think about. And therefore, by controlling that, we can take the actions we need to have whatever life or achieve whatever we want to do in life.
Yeah. And again, it's funny. We've done this is our 20th show, right?
This is our 20th show, friends.
And obviously we find ourselves repeating a lot of stuff, which obviously I think they're very valid, and we all need reinforcement. But life is a choice. And the theme of the thing today is you will achieve something in life. And you will. It's guaranteed you're going to achieve something. Now,
but what you achieve,
what you achieve is totally, it's really interesting to look at it that way. But you are going to achieve something, and how can you program yourself to achieve something that you'd like to be? Well, the only way to do it is to convince yourself that you are going to do it. And that's where, going back to our leader, if you want to say that, your mind is like soil. Whatever you plant in it, it will give you back. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
There's no question about it. And going way, way back, even beyond the Bible and everything else, all of these philosophies are there for everyone to see. But Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great transcendentalist with Thoreau, who lived in the 1800s, said, man becomes what he thinks about all day long.
That's it. It's
as simple as that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, Norb. Why do you think it is that people get so caught up in self-doubt? And I'm going to quote Henry Ford. And by the way, you said that we repeat a lot of things. We do, but we've never had a show on the same topic. And these philosophies are fundamental to what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think they're really good stuff. They're bear repeating, and you have to repeat them.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's being positive. It's not that complicated.
No.
That's the problem. It's not that complicated. The only thing we can do in this show is show you, hopefully, that you can change your thought pattern if you want to. Okay, and go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Henry Ford has a famous quote, and he said, "If you think you can do something, you are right, and if you think you can't do something, you're also right."
Yeah, see, that's the simplicity of it. And for some reason or other, people don't like simplicity. It's just like this old joke about, the kid going to the doctor and says, "Doctor, it hurts when I
move my finger.
Move my finger," and the doctor says, "Don't move your finger." and it's just that simple. And one of the things that's really interesting is that I learned something one time when I was looking at a business, and I was working with a business broker and a gentleman that I really, really admired. He was just a wise man. He was just a great wise man. And we were talking to this business owner, and the business owner had a great business. And obviously he was very successful. He had nice cars. He had a nice family. He had a nice, everything in his life was good. And we were talking, and then this older gentleman that I was with, he looked at him and he said, "Well, but what's your problem?" And the guy started telling him about a problem he had. And when we left the company, I said, "How did you know this guy had a problem?" And he said something that I'll never forget. He says, "Norb, everybody's got a problem." And I think that's something that we should really realize today, that everybody has a problem. Everybody.
Right.
I don't care who you are, where you are, you've got a problem. Now, how big it is, how little it is, of course, there's a lot of difference, but accept that as just part of life, and success comes, success goes. This is just the flow of life, of nature. Chicago had a great amount of incredibly successful and very influential people, especially to the creation of the United States. Chicago was really probably one of the great cities that built just an unbelievable amount of wealth. And
for sure.
Really. And I have something which is really interesting, which shows you that, people that, even if you become successful, you can have great problems and bad things happen. But you shouldn't think that this will happen to you. It has happened to incredible people. Just to give you an idea, in 1923, a very important meeting was held at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago, which was a beautiful hotel on the north side of Chicago. Attending this meeting were 9 of the world's most successful financial people. The president of the largest independent steel company worldwide, the president of the largest utility company, the president of the largest gas company, the greatest wheat speculator, the president of the New York Stock Exchange, a member of the president's cabinet, the greatest bear in Wall Street, the head of the world's greatest monopoly, the president of the Bank of International Settlements. Certainly, we must admit that here were gathered a group of the world's most successful men, at least men who had found the secret of making money. 25 years later, now you have to understand this was in 1923, so 25 years later was after the Depression of the United States.
Right.
Let's see where these men were or are. The president of the largest independent steel company, Charles Schwab was his name, died bankrupt and lived on borrowed money for the last 5 years before his death. The president of the greatest utility company, Samuel Insull, died a fugitive from justice and penniless in a foreign land. The president of the largest gas company, Howard Hobson, is now insane. The greatest wheat speculator, Arthur Cotton, died abroad insolvent. The president of the New York Stock Exchange, Richard Whitney, was recently released from Sing Sing. The member of the president's cabinet, Albert Fall, was pardoned from prison so he could die at home. The greatest bear of Wall Street, Jesse Livermore, died a suicide. The head of the greatest monopoly, Ivor Kruger, died a suicide. And the president of the Bank of International Settlements, Leon Fraser, died a suicide. Now, why do I say this, which is very negative, actually? The theme of this is that all these men learned the art of making money, but not one of them learned how to live.
Wow.
And, you know, this is very, very important to learn because one of the things we said in one of the shows we did, and I was recalling this, I think Nietzsche made the comment that the question was, if you had to live your life again, would you do it the same way?
Right.
And obviously these guys didn't. Very powerful, very happy temporarily, but how they ended their life was really quite sad. I don't think any one of them would have liked to repeat that. You know?
Right. Well, but the thing about it, though, is that it is so a great illustration of not only, you know, the money thing, and as we talk about all the time, friends, that this show is not about making money or business. It's about anything you want it to be. And that is a powerful lesson how things are going to get better and things at times in life are going to get worse. And having the big picture, the long run is the way to go. I really think that.
Again, coming to the end of the show, which is always kind of sad because the 30 minutes really goes fast.
For us, at least, maybe not for the listener, but
you know, we always talk about Earl Nightingale, and obviously he's like our god in a way. But Earl Nightingale actually got a lot of his thoughts from another gentleman who wrote a book, As a Man Thinketh, by James Allen. And James Allen was just a phenomenal guy. And one of the things that he said, which is really interesting, it's thought and the mind have made us. We are what we are by our thoughts, what we wrought and built. If a man's mind has evil thoughts, pain comes to him, and it comes as the wheel of the ox. If one endures the impurity of thought, joy follows him as his own shadow, for sure.
I love that.
You know, which basically is, again, what we talk about all the time is positive thoughts give you positive results. And you know, thank God every day, pick up a piece of paper, say something nice to somebody, and if you find the time, by gosh, tell a joke. Or go to Google and just put jokes and laugh about them. You'll find hundreds of them, and a lot of them are really funny. So that adds a little, you know, nice thoughts are nice.
I love it. And it ties, so what you read ties so nicely back to our topic for today, which was cause and effect. Everything we are today is the result of our thoughts, which followed by our actions, and everything we thought and decided to do is the reason we are the people we are today. And the future is going to be controlled in the same way. Our thoughts, what we think about ourselves, what we think about our capabilities, what we want to do, how we understand how to do it, is going to drive our thoughts, those are our thoughts, are going to drive our actions, and that's going to determine how our life turns out.
Because as the theme of the show is...
That's right. Achievement. You will achieve something in life, but what is it you want to achieve?
Exactly. You will achieve it, fellas and ladies.
That's right.
Okay.
So get focused on what you want to achieve, figure out how to do it, and go do it. And don't worry about the past. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about people pleasing other people. Set your mind, figure out how to do it, and we guarantee you that you'll be able to do it. Does that sound like a fair deal, Norb?
Amen, brother.
All right.
Okay.
Well, friends, we hope you've enjoyed. I think this clock is wrong. It cannot be 30 plus minutes because I don't even know what happened in the last 30 minutes here. But we hope you've enjoyed our show today. Just remember, think positive as much as you can. And always remember the opposite of that. If you don't think positive, all you're going to be is miserable. So it's worth it to think positive. So for Norb Svanascini, this is Al Edwards, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.